great.
You mentioned turtles. I love turtles.
Oh, I've seen so many turtles, little turtles, medium turtles, giant turtles. Yeah, it's really fun.
I had one experience where I was quite surprised by something turtles can do that I didn't know that they could do. It was at the zoo in Cuenca, Ecuador, and in their turtle enclosure, I saw a turtle climb up a cliff. I did not
Nice.
know turtles can climb, but they can.
Neither did I.
He'd stretch out his neck, get a hold of like a vine or something, pull himself up, and then like use his little legs to anchor himself in while he reached up with his neck to the next area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Smart turtle.
Yeah. So you have your last time I talked to you, I think it was, oh gosh, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. It was a while ago.
If not longer.
Yeah, if not longer. I think the name of your business changed. So you're with you call it Inner Transformation Group now?
Yep. I mean, originally it was just Christian Arlong was my
Yes.
website, was quote unquote my business.
Yeah.
Um, I had a I had a business bank account and everything like that, but then I wanted to change the energy and I changed the name, I changed bank accounts, I changed everything, my tax filing to change the energy. So now it's Inner Transformation Group.
Mm-hmm. I love your logo.
Yeah, this took I'm pointing at the wrong direction. It took 6 months to make this logo,
Yeah.
and it was based on clairvoyant observation and a very special experience that happened in Mount Shasta in Northern California. So that's this is not just a logo, it has a tremendous significance in my life and in the work that I do.
I get that. There's some stories in my life that I've only just started to share. I uploaded one video earlier today actually with a story of a experience that I went through in 2018 that I have not shared publicly before. I don't think even most of my family knows, but now it's on YouTube.
That's funny. Does your family know about the channel?
If they watch my Facebook feed, then yes, they do.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun. You have a an event coming up that I've seen you advertising on Facebook.
Yeah, so the event we're pushing back,
Okay.
but that the event was in Sedona,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona for transformation using the teachings of Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui, pranic healing, Arhatic yoga, different purification practices, and kind of like an accelerator in essence, in
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful spot that's owned by another Arhatic yogi who
Mm-hmm.
has held many retreats at her center, and I think she's been there. I think this is her 10th year being at that property, where people come and they interact with horses. They get horse readings and soul readings with the horses and healings with the horses. That's more of her niche and her specialization. But about 2 years ago, I was staying there for a month in, when was it? June of 2021. And it was super intense. I'd never been, number one, I'd never been to Arizona at that point, and number two, I'd never been to somewhere that was so hot. I didn't even know human beings could function in that level of heat when I was there, and I was there during the hottest 2 months. I was in Arizona in June and July, and it was
Oh,
so unbearable. I was in awe of how hot it was. I saw people playing college students playing ultimate frisbee when I was in Phoenix, just walking around. The temperature was at the time it was 113, 114 degrees, and
mm-hmm.
they were just throwing a frisbee around like it was just another day at the park, literally. And I could barely, like, I had the sweat dripping in my eyes, and my glasses got so hot that they were burning my skin. Like I didn't know how people function in that weather.
Mm-hmm.
But she has a beautiful spot in Sedona, right outside of downtown, and yeah, it, I thought what an ideal place to hold a retreat, a weekend retreat.
Yeah, my brain works in Celsius, so I'm just converting that. 45 Celsius. Yep, that's hot. I've only ever been in that temperature like few times. The I used to go to a hot yoga class. They kept the hot yoga room at that temperature.
Wow.
It was hot.
That's pretty intense. There was when I was staying at an Airbnb in Phoenix, because I'd never been to Phoenix and I want to check out another city out of curiosity. And I
Mhm.
was staying in this Airbnb, and right next to the Airbnb was a like a little parking lot and then a dumpster. And so I thought, hey, I'm just gonna grab some of my stuff and just throw it in the dumpster. I'm just gonna walk out quick. I don't need to put my shoes or my sandals on. It's literally right there. And I thought to myself, no problem. And I start walking, all of a sudden, my feet start sticking to the ground, start sticking to the asphalt. And I later looked up, and I'm going to give you the Celsius. I later looked up of what the temperature was on the pavement, and it was 79 degrees Celsius,
You can just
which
throw
is
a
a
fried egg.
yeah, it's 175 degrees Fahrenheit. I couldn't believe it. And of
Yeah.
course, as soon as my feet got burned, I started doing pranic healing. The pain went away, but I was in awe of how hot it was. That was my first couple days in Phoenix at the
Wow.
peak. Yeah.
I think I'll avoid Phoenix. I'm from Canada.
Yeah. You guys don't know what you know what cold is, but you definitely don't know what hot is.
Well, actually, I did. I have seen it get to 45 Celsius, which would be like that 114 Fahrenheit, for about 3 days once, one summer. It does get hot, it just doesn't last long.
Got it. Well, what if it lasted 3 months?
I I'd be living like in the refrigerator or in the shower with cold water on me.
Yeah. So for 3 months of the year,
Yeah.
the temperatures are super high and they have the air conditioning bill, like the AC, the electric bill goes up almost 4 times for those three
Yeah.
months. And then the rest of the 9 months of the year, you don't have to have anything. You leave your windows open, doors open. It's the same temperature, all day long.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people live there, because 9 months out of the year, it's spectacular. It's dry, it's warm, right? But then those
Mm-hmm.
3 months, it's like unbearable.
Note to self, go to Phoenix in the winter.
Exactly. Correct. You nailed it.
Tell me more about your business and what you're doing.
That's a good question. So for the longest time, I've been a professional healer for over a decade at this point. Well, maybe 15, 16 years. Um, and for the longest time, I was doing one-on-one healings, right? So people would contact me and they would say, hey, Christian, I would refer to you. 90% of my business is either referrals or renewals. So
Mm-hmm.
people that get referred to me for healing from other clients, or people that want to do another package of healing sessions with me. So
Mm-hmm.
for the longest time, I would just do one-on-one healing. So somebody said, oh, I'm having divorce in my life. Can you help me with that? I'm having problems with anger. Can you help me with that? I'm having anxiety in school. Can you help me with that? I'm trying to make more money through my job. Can you help me with that? All right. So doing the techniques we do in pranic healing, we change the energy, the person changes, their life changes, they improve, and then they go, hey, can this also be used for X, Y, and Z?
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy doing that. But I said to myself, I go, okay, there's something within me calling me to go from the one-on-one work to more group work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I consulted with one of the pranic healing masters to get advice. How can I do better group work? How can I lead the group better energetically? Teaching them, make sure everyone gets the appropriate amount of energy and value for them, what they pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of was the culmination of the inner transformation group. So I went from doing one-on-ones and group or one-on-ones and packages to doing a package or a program where multiple people can be partaking in it at one time. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of been the evolution. Now people can still do one-on-one healings with me, but the rate is much different than it used to be for previously. So
Mm-hmm.
previously my rate was 275 for one-on-one, and now it's 1,000 for one-on-one.
Yeah. Good for you.
I mean,
I love
it
that.
wasn't overnight, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't overnight. It took a long time.
yeah, definitely. And I'm proud of you though. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
all credit to Master Choa and the masters that have helped me along the way.
So what type of healing is like your favorite to do?
Typically, what I get most often are one of the pranic healing instructors said a while back, which I thought was really funny. She said, "You're like an ER doctor." So when people's lives are falling apart and when they've tried everything and nothing works, those are the kinds of clients that I get. That it's typically really complex things. It's multi-factored things. So it's not like, oh, I was just diagnosed with cancer and then we just do the cancer protocol, or I've had chronic migraines for 5 years and we just do the migraine protocol.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually like, I'm going through a divorce and there's a custody battle and I just lost my job,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So it's usually major things all coming together at the same time.
Yeah.
And so people hire me for that. So that's kind of my specialization is people that find themselves at rock bottom. That's my specialization.
Everything's going wrong.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they need lots of energy. They need to be treated in a certain way. They need to have somebody not lose it, not jump in their boat that's sinking, right? They need somebody
Yeah.
to be clear headed, in a loving way and guiding them, giving them the appropriate amount of homework in the appropriate way, doing the right kinds of healing with the right kind of energy to get them out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's more of what I do with people.
Wonderful. Gives me an idea of who to send your way.
Life is falling apart. I know the perfect guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, basically I've transitioned from doing mostly one-on-ones to doing mostly group work. And so I have a 3-month program that people can plug into, two different ones. One would be double your energy, double your income, right? For people that want to have more energy and have more prosperity in their life. So that's a whole 3-month program. And then the other program is called the Inner Transformation Group Program, which is more connected to spiritual things, metaphysical things, esoteric things that isn't so focused on earning more money.
Hmm.
Right. So those are two different programs that are 3 months that I offer.
Great. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some people who will be interested who are watching this video. So, where can they find you?
Best way to find me is innertransformationgroup.com.
Okay.
Yep. That's how
Awesome.
you can book calls with me. That's how you can learn about one of the programs that I offer. That would be probably the best step. Or, my YouTube channel has 600 plus videos. It used to be Christian R. Long, right? But I changed it. So it's Inner Transformation Group for the
Hmm.
YouTube channel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited about that. Ooh, how did you get into pranic healing?
Great question. When so my spiritual path officially started in 1999. I was introduced to I finished reading a book actually by Dr. John Duyard, who is a chiropractor and Ayurvedic doctor in Boulder, Colorado. And he wrote a book called Body, Mind, and Sport, which basically gives a person a method to getting into the zone or getting into a flow state through interpreting your breathing, your heart rate, and your form. So if you follow those three aspects, the likelihood of you getting into a flow state where things become timeless, effortless, and you actually get rejuvenated during that experience is greater, right? So I read that book when I was 16. I experimented with the techniques and I was like, wow, this actually works like crazy, because they always talk about the elusive flow state or the elusive zone. But this particular book, I was able to get into it at will, following the metrics, and then I was able to get clients because I was at the time the youngest personal trainer in my YMCA's 85-year history,
Mm.
and I would just apply it to the people that came in. Right? I was like, hey, I heard about this thing called, body, mind, and sport. Dr. John Douillard, he's an Ayurvedic practitioner. He talks about this thing called sun salutations and looking at your heart rate and your breathing and all this stuff. Let's experiment. And people consistently got into the flow state doing that. And so I went to school for exercise science at Springfield College. And then something told me to take a break. So I basically had a year done, and something told me to take a break. And I remember talking to my A&P professor, anatomy and physiology professor, right before I was about to take the break. And she said to me, she goes, I don't think it's good for you. I think you should just stay the course and finish the next 3 years, and then you'll have your degree in exercise science. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to be like a glorified personal trainer. I don't want to spend all this money. At the time, it was $26,000 a year to go to that university. It was an expensive private school in Massachusetts. And I said, it doesn't make sense for me. And I go, I could get a degree in business, but this school isn't known for business. The school is known for health and fitness. So they had the #2 health and fitness program in the entire United States. Basketball was founded at this college, Springfield College. Wow. And so I said, if I need to take a break, I just need to get some perspective. And she goes, okay. And that decision literally changed the entire course of my life, because shortly after I took that time off, I had you could say, I was going to say a midlife crisis, but when you're 19, you don't really have any midlife crises. I for some reason picked that book up again that I had read 3 years previously, and something told me to go into the back of the book, which is weird because I read the book from cover to cover. So why would I have missed an entire, last part of it? And at the end of it, interestingly enough, it said that he was teaching and working at the Maharishi Lancaster Clinic in Lancaster, Massachusetts, which was 5 miles from where I lived in Berlin, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, let's see, I'm taking some time off. I've applied what this guy says in this book. I had great experiences with him. Let me go see if he's still there, right? Because I didn't know. This is kind of just when the internet was getting around, so not a lot of places had websites and etc. So you had to just go somewhere or make a phone call. So I was like, it's a 5-mile drive. Let me go there. So I ended up driving there. And the woman said to me, she happened to be the one running the clinic, which was in a ginormous old 1800s banking mansion. It was owned by a banking family in the 1800s in Massachusetts, and it was overlooking the town. It is beautiful. It's, it's still there, still in existence. And I said, look, I've taken a year off from school. I'm trying to find myself. I have an interest in spirituality and meditation. I read this book, Body, Mind, and Sport by Dr. John Douillard. And my understanding is that he teaches here, or he works here or something. She goes, well, he left a couple years ago. And I go, I just missed him? She goes, yeah, you just missed him. I said, well, what is he talking about meditation in the book? And it's called Transcendental Meditation. I go, never heard of it. Know nothing about it. And this woman who ran the clinic happened to be a longtime meditation teacher within TM, known as a governor, right? And she goes, well, are you looking for a job here? And I said, yeah, if I get to work in a health clinic, an Ayurvedic clinic, and learn about the doshas and learn about different herbs and different massage treatments and treatments for longevity and rejuvenation, I'm all about it. That's what I was going to school for. But something told me there's more to the physical body than just, exercising and watching what you eat. And she said, well, you're in good hands. So we'd like to hire you. You can start this week. And we recommend, or not recommend, but everyone who works here has to practice this particular meditation technique called TM. And I said, sweet, how much? I'm on board. She goes, well, you're a student, so it's $350, which at the time was $1 million to me, right? As a 19-year-old college student. So I scrounged the money together somehow. To this day, I don't know how I got the money together. And then the next couple of days, I went in right around my birthday. So this would have been June 3rd, June 4th, 1999. And I went in there, and the woman who was my TM instructor, this woman by the name of Laura Wolf. I don't even know if she's still in the body anymore. She had this bright white hair, like looked like a witch. She had super taut, smooth, baby-like skin and these crystal clear blue eyes. Like her hair didn't match what her physical body looked like. It was like
Yeah.
an old person mixed in with a very youthful person.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so weird. And then whenever she came into a room or left a room, she would hit the corner of the doorway and it would spin her around out of the room or into the room. And I was like, what's going on with this? Like she was so somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
And so she goes, well, I've been a TM teacher for the past 35 years, right? Because TM was brought to the United
Mhm.
States in the mid 1950s by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was the guru to the Beatles, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of how he rode the coattails, as it were, of the fame. And TM is one of the most practiced forms of meditation in the world with over 8 million practitioners.
Yeah.
So,
I've been to the university he founded in Fairfield in Iowa. Yeah.
small world then.
Yeah.
Interesting. So she taught the technique, right?
Mhm.
She whispered the mantra in my ear, and for the people watching, the mantra isn't based on the things that most people think. They're like, I have my own special unique mantra. The mantra is based on two factors: your age and your sex. So
Hmm.
depending upon what your sex is and depending upon the time that you learned the technique will determine what mantra you get.
Oh, okay.
So after I practiced it for 20 minutes in her presence and she was monitoring me doing it, I remember opening my eyes up and the first thing I said was, where did I go? And she says, that's kind of unique for the first time to experience that meditating. And I said, I don't know what this is. I don't know where I went. I don't know what I experienced, but this is something I want to dedicate the rest of my life to.
Mhm.
So I ended up practicing the TM technique morning and evening for 20 minutes each time religiously for almost 4.5 years. I
Mhm.
ended up doing that. I worked at that company at the Maharishi Clinic for about 6 months. And then I went to the university. I went to MUM.
Oh, okay.
So I was studying cosmic consciousness as my major, and MUM is based on the block system. So instead of having 5 classes for 6 hours a day for 3 months, you have one class that you do for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for a month. So
Mm.
you just have one focus every
Mhm.
month of in this class. Now we're doing accounting. Now we're doing Vedic studies. Now we're doing philosophy, right? So you wouldn't have multiple papers to write and assignments. You would just have one class, one assignment, one focus.
That strikes me
And
as a lot more efficient of a way to learn. Yeah.
that was their thought process too behind it.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I found it. I found my home. I was meditating regularly. I was having amazing experiences. And then I applied to the next level, which was the TM Cities course. So you go from meditating 20 minutes twice a day to up to 4 to 6 hours a day. And I was like, I can't wait to do the TM Cities course. More meditation. Yay. And I
Hmm.
got denied. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Why did you guys deny me? Look at how committed. I've never missed any of the meditations at the university because we all had to meditate together as students. So I
Mhm.
never missed anything. And little did I know, they have a term within the TM community called de-stressing. So when someone is doing their practices regularly, but maybe not the entirety of their practices, and they start becoming loud, aggressive, irritable, insomnia, they
Mm.
say the person is de-stressing, right? That's the term. So with some of my mannerisms,
Sounds a little like a Kundalini syndrome.
oh, for sure. I mean, that's exactly what it was,
Yeah.
getting more educated.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving the university, dropped out of school because I got denied because I felt hurt. I took it personally, right? I
Mhm.
ended up going to Berlin, Germany,
Mhm.
Ended up getting my heart broken in Berlin, Germany. Because I was going out there to chase a girl. I got my heart broken there, and I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks with her, but 3 days into it, it fell apart. And so the other 2.5 weeks, I ended up staying with a TM family who the father was a TM teacher and he had 9 kids and he was by himself. The wife was no longer in the picture. So I was like, how is this one guy supporting 9 children? But I was there for two and a
Lot.
half weeks before, before I came back. So I said, you know what? I still want to learn this technique, this TM Cities technique.
Mhm.
So a year later, I reapplied. I went back to the university, but not as a student, but as staff. I ended up running the Cosmic Cafe, which was the coffee shop on campus. So I took the manager position and I ran that for about a year. I stayed in the dorms. They gave me a small stipend. Food was included, insurance, healthcare, whatever was included, but it's not enough to like get anything together to like, I'm going to run off after I, make all these millions of dollars at the university. It was just enough to keep you there and doing the practices because I wanted people to come together to do group work, group meditations, right? So I ended up applying. I got accepted, and you have about, which was super funny. The way I got the $5,000 for that class was one of the craziest ways that you can think of actually getting accepted for a class. So I said to myself, I go, all right, it's $5,000. I'm at this university. I make $700 a month. How the heck and that was it. That was my only source of income. So how am I gonna
That's 6 months
survive?
away if I spend absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And the course is only offered once a year. So it's like, okay, here's my shot.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Okay, I got an idea. I'm gonna try to set a world record. Okay, what's a world record that would be relevant to that can be done that people can get behind? And I go,
Hmm.
well, I do have a background in dance, and line dancing is really popular in the Midwest. Aha.
Very
What's the
popular in
biggest?
Canada too.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
I would have never thought that. Learn
Yeah.
something new.
Grade
They
eight
say,
gym, grade eight gym class is like we do line dancing for like 2 months of various different types of line dancing. And then I remember one of our assignments for gym class. That was the only year I actually got a decent grade in gym class. Every other year I just about failed gym. But that year I did pretty good. And so one of our assignments was that we had to invent our own line dance and then teach it to the rest of the class too. So it was fun.
invent your own line dance. That's pretty
Yeah.
high level.
Yeah. We had to pick a song and come up with our own line dance and teach it to the class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you guess what the world record was for the longest line dance?
Hmm. I'm gonna say it was under 24 hours.
No, like the amount of people,
Oh,
like
amount
the,
of
the
people.
longest, like the amount of people with the longest row.
200 or 300.
200 or 300. Okay. All right.
That's my guess. I don't
So
really.
this is 25 years ago, right? 25
Okay.
years ago. I went on to Guinness Book of World Records website, right?
Yeah.
And I found out that the world record was about 6,600 people,
Wow.
roughly.
That's a lot longer than I thought.
6,600 people. So I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, wait a minute. People love country line dancing in the Midwest, and people will drive because that's what they do. People will drive from different states to come to Iowa to participate in setting the world record.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of cornfields, open fields, plenty of parking, plenty of space for people to do the dance. And all it has to be is what? 2 or 3 minutes? No big deal. Easy peasy. And then I will charge each person who takes place in it $10. And I go, I got my money. So I thought to myself, okay, now how do I get the word out? And I go, oh, there's a local television council, right? They air the council meetings, and I'll just be one of the people that go into the council meeting, and I'll say, "Look, guys, I'm trying to set a world record for longest country line dance." And Fairfield, Iowa can be acknowledged for, because Fairfield had all these like little tiny records for like this technological breakthrough or this, that, like weird little things. So I go, well, it'd just be another quirky thing that the town has. And so I went there. I presented my case as I think I was 20 at the time. I presented it to the council, and they said, that's very interesting. How are you going to handle the police? How are you going to handle trash? How are you going to handle parking? How are you going to handle directing traffic? All of these things. And I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And they go, well, when do you want to do it? And I said, well, in the next month. They're expecting me to say within the next year to 2 years is what they were expecting me to say.
Yeah.
And I go, why in the next month? I go, because I am trying to raise money for something that's important to me, right? And they couldn't figure out what was going on. I got quoted in the newspaper. The video was online, so I was made a little TV appearance. It was really funny. So
I love how creative this way to get the money
I
is.
I had to figure it out.
I'm really enjoying this story of your creativity in that. It's inspiring.
Planting seeds.
Yeah.
So the so I ended up, putting it out there. And then when I was back at the cafe, right, because I worked there,
Mhm.
two of the students came in that they go, hey, we heard about you on the TV, and you were trying to save money for the city's course. And we're trying to save money for the city's course too. And I go, so we're going from needing 5,000 to 15,000, and we're all broke. How the hell are we going to do this? So then we put our little fat heads together, and if you look at it, you have three people. You have light, you have love, and you have power.
Mm-hmm.
We came together.
Got a good little trinity going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we went around and we said, do you want to be part of it? So we ran through the numbers and we ran through the logistics, and basically the mayor of the town, who was also at that town council meeting, who was also a TM practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
he said, logistically, we can't do it. It's going to be wintertime. It's going to be too soon. It's too short notice. Like, you just can't do it. Right. Like bathroom setups, the whole deal. And I'm like, all right, there's got to be.
I think wintertime does have one bonus, and that is that there's no crops in the field and the farmers won't mind if you trim.
Exactly. I like your heads on. Exactly. See, so you should have been at that, town meeting with me, kind of pushed them over the edge.
Yeah.
So they basically denied it, but they came to me, these two students, and they said, well, let's work together and come up with some ideas. So we basically, we came up with all these different ideas, and we chased one and it led nowhere. We chased another, it led nowhere. We chased another one, it led nowhere. And then we had another idea that at MUM, they have what is known as the meditation domes,
Mm-hmm.
which are the largest domes of their kind in the world. And each dome fits about 2,500 people each, sitting down and meditating. You have a woman's dome where all the women meditate, and you have a men's dome where all the men meditate, right? And we realized the domes are freaking filthy. No one's cleaning them, but people are meditating and meditating and meditating for years, but no one's cleaning them because people meditate on foam cushions, like a mattress, like a foam mattress, and there's hundreds of foam mattresses covering the floor. Mm-hmm. So instead of people sitting and meditating on concrete, they're sitting and meditating on little baby cushions. But the problem with that is you're sitting and meditating for 90 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Do you think you have to blow your nose? Possibly. Do you think you like to hold on and keep some things in a certain place, and then that's your space, and then maybe you haven't eaten so much and you bring in snacks, and over time things build up? And not to get graphic, and again, I don't quite understand this, to be honest with you, but I'm not a woman, but we found women were putting used tampons in between the cushions.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine that.
I thought it was a bit odd, but I'm not here to judge. I wasn't them. I wasn't there, but I saw it firsthand. So basically, we got the opportunity. We contacted the university, and we went around to all the advanced meditators on campus and off campus, because there were people who graduated from the university. They stayed in town and they continued going to the domes to meditate in a group because it's stronger, right? It's more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, hey guys, we're raising money and we're going to clean the domes. Now, you can go online, you can find what the domes look like inside. Oprah actually went there. She did a video in the early 2000s, and the mayor of the town was actually one of the people leading her through the domes. And he how do I put this? We got permission from the university, and people were super excited of having a clean dome, but they said, how big is your team to clean each of the domes? And we said, well, what do you mean? They go, well, you're going to need an entire team to go in and do a thorough cleansing and move hundreds of mattresses and garbage and all kinds of things. And I go, no, it's just going to be the three of us. And they're like,
it's going to take you a month.
they're like, it's going to take you a very long time. If you've ever cleaned a big house by yourself, multiply that by a factor of 10 and 2 of them, and you'll have an idea, right? So we got started really quickly. We went around town. We created a little poster. We put it in certain spots in town of like the dome cleaning project, gave our name, how to get a hold of us, what we were raising money for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And after everything was said and done, and we cleaned it, we were pretty feeling defeated midway through, to say the least, but we ended up raising the money for it. I'm sorry, we ended up getting $700 between the three of us. So we needed 15,000. We raised $700. And I'm like, this sucks. And we had to clean the domes from start to finish, which we did, right? We fulfilled our commitment. And then we had only that money. We went around to other TM governors. We went around to the businessmen in the area who would give scholarships to students, to children to take the TM Cities course. And nobody was helping out because we were outsiders. We didn't grow up in the community. We were just people that are like, hey, we learned about TM. It's changed our lives and we want to go to the next level. And everyone's like, great, but sorry, my money's already been distributed, or I don't, this, that, and the other. So all in all, we probably raised a total of maybe $1,500, maybe. So then we had 3 days to go. And we're like, we got 3 days to go. We need $15,000. We only have $1,700. How the heck is this going to materialize? Now, the original question you asked, Crystal, was, how did you get involved? How did you get involved with pranic healing? This is where it's coming together. I promise. It's a little bit of a spiritual path.
Journey.
To get there.
That's okay. All spiritual paths are like that.
So 3 days before we have to have the money to start the first part of the TM Cities course, which is like a 2-month program, roughly, I get a phone call. And I get a phone call from the mayor of the town. And he says, hey, Christian, do you remember me? The mayor? I was at the town council meeting, because he was the middle person. He was the one leading the whole group. And I go, yeah. He goes, how's it been of raising the money? I said, I got maybe $800 for my end. And he goes, so how much more do you need? I said, all of it. I need $4,200 more in order to take the class. And he says, come to my office this afternoon and I'll write you a check.
Oof.
And I'm like, wow. What did you say? And he goes, because you have passion and excitement, and I see you doing this as something good for the world.
Yeah.
and I want to support that. And I'm
Passion
like,
and excitement. Plus, he saw that you would not give up.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because he was, I bet you he was stalking me for those couple months
Yeah.
of doing this program, seeing me around town, the word getting out. Hey, these 3 kids are asking everyone for money for the TM Cities course. So he probably was like, this guy is the real deal, right?
Yeah.
So he ended up giving me the money. And then the day, this is super weird. And it was validated by the 3 other people in the car. So the day that we had to have all of our money together, that one of the kids' grandmother out of nowhere gave her all the money out of nowhere, gave
Wow.
her all the money, the $5,000. And then the other person had another person in Rochester, New York, and one other person. So 2 people gave him all the money. At like literally the 11th hour of when
Yeah.
we had to submit, like send the money to the organization to be registered for the course. And then as there were 4 people in the car, as we were driving back, I forget where we were. It was like we all got the news together. We're all like jacked up, like, oh my God, you got it too. I got it. Oh. And as we were driving back through Iowa, it was crystal clear. It was super cold. There was not a cloud in the sky. And we looked up and there was a rainbow around the sun. And we're like, do you see this? And I guess it is a phenomenon that happens, but it's very rare. So obviously we took it as an auspicious sign of like, sweet, we're all
Of
supposed to
course,
take the
it's an
TM Cities
auspicious
course.
sign.
Yeah. So we ended up signing up. We ended up doing the 6 weekends of the preparatory work. And then over the holiday break for students, for staff, and for faculty, you do what is known as the TM Cities flying block, which is where you learn a specific sutra, and then all day long you just spend time meditating. That's all you're doing. You're basically eating, doing exercises or yoga, asanas, certain kinds of breathing, and then your meditation practice, then watching videos of Maharishi, and then repeating it again and again and again all day long. So 14 hours a day, you're doing something, right? And by the end of the 2 weeks, you're like, you don't even know what your physical body is like anymore. You're just somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you have is preparatory for 6 weeks or whatever. Then you have the 2 week flying block. So you have people from all over the world that can do their 6 weeks somewhere else. Argentina, Germany, Canada, right? They can do it. And then people can come and do their flying block separately. So some people say, I want to do my flying block in Switzerland. Some people say, I want to do my flying block on the university, MUM. Wouldn't it be a great place to do it? Right? Because that's where all the action's happening. So on that 2 week flying block, that's when I met the person who introduced me to pranic healing and Hatha yoga. So this person was cute, from Canada, from Vancouver.
Cool.
She was a biologist, and she said to me, she was a TM practitioner. She did her prerequisite, her preparatory TM Cities work in Canada. And then she wanted to do her flying block for 2 weeks, the 2 week flying block at the university. And so we met at the university. I was a little bit more charismatic and boyish charm back then than I have now. So she was smitten with me a little bit. And we ended up hitting it off with one another. She was 10 years older than me at the time, right? So I was 20, 21. She was 30, 31. Exactly 10 years. And she had been a pranic healer, been a Hatha yogi, but stopped practicing her Hatha yoga, which I didn't even know what she was saying. She's like, yeah, I practice our Hatha yoga. And I'm like, I don't even know what word is coming out of your mouth. And she goes, it just means saint in Buddhism. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so we stayed in touch after the 2 week flying block. And she said, maybe 8 months later, she goes, would you like to come out and visit me in Vancouver? And I was like, sweet. Never been to Canada, never been to Vancouver, know nothing about Canada at all. And I'd love to. So I ended up saving up some money. I flew out. I left the university as a staff member. So I accomplished my goal, right, of becoming a TM Sidha. So I did it. I had no further reason to stay on campus. And I go, oh, I'd have an opportunity to build a relationship and connect with somebody that is on the spiritual path. So I ended up staying in British Columbia or Vancouver, but we traveled all over BC for about 3 months. Vancouver Island. We went everywhere. We went to like 8 major spots in BC. We didn't go to Whistler, which is actually funny because that's the place that everyone always talks about. But I
Yeah,
don't ski, so I don't really have an interest in going to a skiing area.
yeah.
So my first week or so there, I went into her bedroom that she was staying at her aunt's house, and I said, who's that Asian guy on the mantle?" And she goes, "Oh, that's Master Choa Koksui. He's the founder of pranic healing." And I said, "Huh, he looks very familiar." She goes, "Yeah, I don't know." And then she was telling me she would disappear in the evenings, right? So we'd spend the day with each other, the morning, and we slept together and the whole deal. And then she would disappear in the evenings. And I go, we would even do our practices, our TM Cities practice together. And I go, "Where are you going?" She goes, "I'm going to a meditation and healing clinic." And I go, "For what?" Like, I thought we do TM and we do the TM Cities course. Like, what are you doing out? What's the other thing you're doing? And she
Mhm.
goes, "Remember that picture of the teacher, Master Choa, the one that does pranic healing?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, that's energy work and it deals with the chakras." And I go, "What's a chakra?" And she goes, "You have energy centers that are located throughout your body."
I did not know that that TM wouldn't have taught you that.
So the TM doesn't talk about the soul. TM doesn't talk about chakras, doesn't talk about Kundalini, doesn't talk about Tantra, doesn't talk about any of those things. They're very specific with what they focus on, which I'm super grateful to TM. It got me on the path, right?
Yeah.
It gave me tremendously beautiful experiences and I met beautiful people, but there came a level. The reason I left the TM community is because there came a level that I was having inner experiences that people were either unable to answer and give me clarity on or unwilling to answer and give me clarity on. And
Mm.
that didn't fit me. That didn't fit my model of the world. It's like, look, you're the expert, you're the teacher, right? And
Mhm.
you taught me this technique and I'm reading the books, I'm doing my practices, and you're not helping me, right? That's how I perceived it. Like
Yeah.
hook a brother up, right? Help him out. So they minimize their ability to help me. So I was like, all right, well, what's this whole pranic healing thing about? And she goes, well, maybe sometime I can bring you to a meditation or a healing clinic or something like that. And I go, okay. And she just kind of dropped it. She never forced it on me. She never really brought it up that much, but she was always doing something with her hands.
Mhm.
Even now, 23 years later, I still haven't seen people do what she was doing with her hands as often as she was. And we would go for a walk and she would have her hands over the bushes and she'd be doing stuff to the trees. And I would talk to her about things and she would go like this. And it's like everything that I said or everything in our environment, she was checking in with,
Mhm.
monitoring, trying to understand. And
Mhm.
I go, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm feeling the energy of things. It's called scanning and pranic healing. And I go, well, what can you do with it? And then she introduced me to scanning and what you can do with it.
Mhm.
And then I remember one time she came home and she had eyes that were super bright. She had tears rolling down her cheeks and she had the biggest smile you've ever seen on her face. And I go, is everything all right? And she goes, I just saw the crown chakra today. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, I went into the meditation. Then we did a healing clinic and I was working on this guy who was laying on a massage table. And I looked down and I saw on top of his head a lotus flower spinning really fast and shooting out different colored energies. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I go, all right, so when's the next meditation and healing clinic?
It was like, okay, whatever you're doing, I want that.
I didn't even know, like I intuitively knew I wanted it, but
Yeah.
I intellectually didn't understand what she was saying to me. My
Mhm.
brain couldn't process. What do you mean you see something around a person's head spinning? Was it a physical thing? Like I don't even know what you're talking about. It was that
Mhm.
foreign to me and my understanding.
Wow.
So later that week, I ended up attending the um the Vancouver Pranic Healing and Meditation Center that was run by Janet, that she had ran for many, many years, and many, many years after that. She no longer runs the clinic, but it was run by her and her husband. I forget her husband's name. So isn't it interesting that the time that I was going to that day, going to the clinic, I had a fever, I had a severe headache, and I had like flu-like symptoms. Like I had like a runny nose. So I was just in bad shape physically, which is
Mhm.
at the time was rare. So I ended up going there. We do the Twin Hearts meditation, which was the first time I'd ever done it. And then I ended up getting the husband to do work on me, who is an advanced practitioner. And then I also, lucky, got another person to work on me who is a basic pranic healing graduate from the prior weekend. So this person was fresh off the boat, just learned the technique and was excited to practice. So I had two people working on me for
Mhm.
about 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Now, I've been an empath, a hyper empath, since I was teeny weeny. I just didn't know what it was. So I
Mhm.
could feel everything that they were doing, what chakras they were working on, what they were pulling out, like all of it, because it became obvious to me once I experienced it.
Mhm.
And she said, so when they were done with it, he goes, "How do you feel?" The husband. He goes, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Everything's gone. Like the headache's gone, the
Mhm.
fever's gone, the congestion's gone, everything's gone." And I go, "You didn't even touch me." And he goes, "Correct." And then he was looking at my hands, right? My hands were just in my lap.
Mhm.
And he picked up my hands, like held them. And he
Mhm.
goes, "Huh, looks like you'd be a really good healer." And I'm like, "All right." And then that was it.
Mhm.
That was the seed of him saying that that led me to go, "Okay, can you tell me everything about pranic healing, everything about Arhatic yoga, everything about Master Choa Koksui?" Get like just how I had the same passion, the same obsessiveness with TM and the TM
Mhm.
Cities program. I apply that to pranic healing, Arhatic yoga, Master Choa. And she taught me what she could in the way that she could. And then she realized, interestingly enough, she said, "I don't think you belong here in Canada anymore. I think it's time for you to go." Not in the sense that she didn't love me or
Mhm.
anything. She goes, "This isn't where you need to be." And I
Mhm.
was like, "So are we breaking up with each other? Like, what's going on?" And she said to me, she goes, "What do you want?" And I go, "Well, funny you asked that question. I found out that Dr. John Douillard, who kind of started it all, I said
Mhm.
he's doing a workshop in Boulder, Colorado, and it's $5,000. Apparently, I like to do things that are $5,000. And she goes, "Here's the money."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, and I wasn't like, "You, if you don't give me the money, blah blah blah." I wasn't doing that. I was saying I need to have some kind of training that qualifies me to stay in Canada, to work, to earn money, and I
Mhm.
think alternative therapies and healing would be the most appropriate.
Mhm.
And that's why she was supporting me. But then she realized, as she was sending the money to John Douillard, his organization in Boulder, something clicked. And she goes, "You're not supposed to be here anymore." And I
Mhm.
remember she bought me a ticket to go from Vancouver to drive through the border all the way to Boulder, Colorado. I'd never been to Colorado. And she bought me the bus ticket, and she brought me to the bus, and she gave me a big hug, and she kissed me on the face, and she goes, "I love you, and that's why I'm letting you go." And I'm like, I was like devastated because I just thought I was going to go there, get the training and education, and then come back and we would start healing together, start our life together, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And and then that was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I trained with Dr. John Douillard for a weekend. I got the necessary skill that I got to, and he said something very profound to me because he had left the TM organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
For, you know, his own reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a tremendous amount of respect for him, tremendous amount of respect for him. Number one, I remember him saying to me, because I was talking about, I'd love to make $100,000 doing the work that you do, not realizing he's a highly trained chiropractor, Ayurvedic doctor, years and years of schooling, etc. I was like, I'd love to, earn six figures doing what you do. And he kind of smiled and laughed at me, not in a negative way, but he goes, I got news for you. I go, what? He goes, $100,000 is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Little did I know, he lived in Boulder, Colorado, which is one of the more expensive cities in the United States, right? And he also had five kids.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing, yeah, $100,000. I now have an idea of what he makes, right? It definitely was way higher than 100,000. And then he also said something to me that I'll never forget. And I'm still in the process of growing through this teaching. He said to me, because he saw me as like this cocky, passionate, spiritual kid that was a sponge, is wherever I could get healing, wherever I could get blessings, wherever I could get any kind of nugget of spiritual teaching, I was all over it, like obsessive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you're going to come to a realization at some point in your life. He didn't say when. He said at some point. I go, what's the realization? That life is about service to other people. And I was like, huh. Because he was already established in his early 50s, has already lived a super full life. So he was coming from a place of wisdom, right? He wasn't like another 27, 28-year-old guy that was on the, up and up. He was already very well established in life. So he had the wisdom, right?
It's kind of like
And
you're not this passionate about learning this stuff just so you can learn it and feel good.
exactly,
You're
because
passionate
everything I
about
do
learning
is
this because you're supposed to use it to serve.
exactly.
Yeah.
But at this time, I wasn't a healer. I hadn't taken pranic healing. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, acquire more experiences, acquire more understanding, acquire. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to release the energy. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so depleted most of the time from my own traumas and weaknesses and negative tendencies and what have you, that I
Mm-hmm.
was just trying to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was done training with him, he
People like
says,
you and I are not normal. We might as well just give up the fight.
it's a good point. I have to remove that from my vocabulary of seeking normalcy. It doesn't exist.
Uh, it's just
Um,
on the washing machine.
it's a good way of looking at it. If I had a washing machine here, I've been other places I've had one. Um, so when I was done with that weekend, well, guess what? I was homeless. I had no, like, okay, I'm not going back to Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone in Boulder other than him, right?
Mm-hmm.
My family dynamic was not healthy and wholesome and open, right, to taking me back. And I was no longer in school and I was no longer on staff and I had no money. So what the hell am I going to do? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so John Douillard said to me, he goes, well, this coming weekend, right? So him and I trained in a weekend. And he says, the following weekend, I'm going to be in St. Petersburg, Florida, doing a conference on Ayurveda. Would you like to participate in that conference? And I'm like, yes. And he goes, do you like Florida? Would you like to live in Florida? And I'm like, I don't have a home. I have nowhere anywhere. So I'm open to it. Sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, okay, I know I'll talk to someone for you. So he bought me a ticket and I flew down to St. Petersburg or into Tampa and I don't even know how I think he even paid for my taxi to go from Tampa airport to St. Petersburg, a particular hotel in St. Petersburg, like a shuttle. And I met him there, and I kind of helped him out a little bit with setting up his venue.
Mhm.
And then he introduced me to this doctor in Ayurveda, this meditation expert, this, yoga teacher, blah, 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 right? It's a whole event. A few hundred people went to it. And he ended up introducing me to an Ayurvedic doctor of over 35 years, one of the top practitioners in the United States. He had a lot of respect for. And he says, she's looking for an assistant, and she lives in Sarasota, Florida, and she has a place where you can stay. And I was like, sweet, done deal. Let's do it.
Mhm.
And then from that point of me going from St. Petersburg to Sarasota, Florida, living in her newly built Ayurvedic clinic with her and her husband, which was a very bizarre experience that in and of itself could be its own story, its own little book, even.
Mhm.
I ended up finding out that one of the rooms in that clinic was rented out to a New Thought reverend, right? The New Thought church. And the assistant to that reverend, that person became my girlfriend, my wife, then my ex-wife. But I remember years after we met, I said to her, I know that you thought I was your soulmate. And she goes, tell me when you think that, right? Because soulmates don't have to be the most harmonious. They could be
Yeah.
someone that you have big lessons to learn with, right?
Yeah. And
And I,
sometimes the soulmate is not supposed to actually stay with you for your entire life. Sometimes the soulmate is just supposed to help you learn something. Yeah.
oh, she did.
Yeah.
She certainly did. So I said, yeah, the second I met you and I was standing in the doorway of the office that you were working in the clinic,
Mhm.
you made a certain kind of eye contact and a recognition that I noticed. I never brought it up to her until years later.
Mhm.
And I noticed, and I said, in that moment, you saw me as the one.
Mhm.
Like, I know you. We know each other very, very well. And we were extremely comfortable with one another from the second we met each other.
Mhm.
It turned out to be some of the most difficult, most challenging, most horrific things for both of us over the course of us knowing each other from that point to present day.
Mhm.
Right. And, we have a beautiful son because of it. He's 18 and he just had his birthday in March. He just turned 18 in March. So I said to her, when I was in Canada, I was exposed to something connected to pranic called pranic healing. And I want to take the class, but I don't have any money. And she goes, well, let's organize a class because I have a background in organizing classes for spiritual practitioners and healers. And
Mhm.
I'm like, hallelujah, let's do this.
Mhm.
So our very first pranic healing class was March 26, 2004.
Mhm.
And we had her and I and four other people. So there were six people in our first class, and we got to bring in the instructor from Pensacola, Florida, who was a psychotherapist of 25 plus years, and a pranic healing instructor who taught level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4.
Mhm.
And one of my first great mentors in my life, and I'm supremely grateful for her, a gifted healer, a gifted clairvoyant, very insightful about many things.
Mhm.
And I remember taking basic with her. I took basic advanced in psychotherapy with her. And she said at the beginning of this class, or she rephrased it. She says, at the end of this weekend, you are going to perceive the world energetically. And I didn't know what she meant. And then
Mhm.
Sunday night rolled around and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I go, now
Mhm.
I understand what she means. Now I understand what a chakra is. Now I understand the properties and functions of these energy centers and what they're for and how we can use them to have better health, better relationships, better finances, better everything. And it
Mhm.
was so unbelievably familiar to me that
Mhm.
I'm like, why didn't I know what a chakra was previously? Because as soon as I was in class, everything came together, everything made
Yeah.
sense. And I said, this meditation. When I first had that experience in 1999, I said, I want to dedicate my life to meditation. And then when I experienced Twin Hearts, I said, this is the thing that I've been waiting for, that answers the questions that I was unable to get answered previously.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's when I've dedicated my life to pranic healing since 2004. And in spite of all the challenges, all the ups and downs of health issues, relationships issues, financial issues, accelerated negative karma, whatever, pranic healing has
Yeah.
always been there for me. Always. And by the way, you know this.
Yes.
It's not the teach it's not the teachings, it's the impurities of the student. So
Yeah.
I was just working through 20 plus years of impurities and lifetimes, right, of impurities. So,
Mhm.
and I've been doing it ever since.
Mhm. That's awesome.